Misleading studies have led to an overblown panic over the obesity epidemic. In the early 2000s, the beginning of a new century brought with it a host of new questions and possibilities. This was also the time when Americans were suddenly and dramatically informed that they were in the midst of an obesity epidemic. Average body weight in America had been steadily rising in the previous decades, but the issue wasn't considered an immediate concern. This began to change in 1995 when the World Health Organization decided to simultaneously adopt the body mass index as its preferred measurement of body size and lower the threshold for what was considered overweight and obese. There was no sudden increase in average body weight, but over the next few years, public rhetoric changed drastically. As far as the media was concerned, a devastating obesity epidemic had begun. New broadcasts were increasingly filled with horror stories about the so-called health crisis, superimposed over unflattering images of fat people's bodies. In 2004, the Journal of the American Medical Association published a controversial study called Actual Causes of Death in the United States, which shockingly claimed that 400,000 Americans were dying each year as a result of being overweight. As you might expect, this study immediately captured the public's attention, but its findings were widely debated among other researchers. One major issue was that the data sources used were not representative of the current population. In fact, the oldest data sets were pulled from 1951. Living conditions, food systems, and even the threshold for what was considered overweight had changed dramatically in those 50 years. This study failed to take these factors into account, resulting in highly inflated mortality estimates. Although this study and many others like it have been widely discredited, the connection between obesity and mortality is still a highly debated topic among researchers. While fat people can die from conditions we generally associate with weight, like type 2 diabetes and heart disease, these diseases kill thin people too. Assuming that weight is a major factor in these deaths ignores other complications like family history, lifestyle, and access to health care. As is the case with the BMI, oversimplifying the issue and relying on generic calculations is a dangerous game to play. Treating fat people fairly does not glorify obesity. When Aubrey Gordon was 18 years old, she posted a picture of herself in a bathing suit on a blogging platform called LiveJournal. The one piece was modest, but it was the first time that Gordon had found a swimsuit that she actually liked on her body. Having less than 100 followers, she didn't expect much of a response. Unfortunately, leagues of angry commenters found their way onto the site to harass her. Most left negative comments about her appearance, but some accused her of glorifying obesity. She was understandably confused. She was just trying to post one of the rare positive moments she had with her own body. How could this be seen as glorifying anything? This leads us to another very common myth about weight, that supporting fat people glorifies obesity. Like the other misconceptions we talked about in previous sections, this idea is deeply rooted in anti-fat bias and body discrimination. Consider for a moment the comments you might see under a picture of a thin person wearing a swimsuit. Odds are the reactions would be overwhelmingly positive. Why then is this not considered glorifying thinness? In the age of social media, this issue is something that fat people have to navigate every day. If someone who doesn't fit the mold posts a picture online, even something as innocent as eating dinner or sitting on the beach, it's often seen as an act of defiance against social norms. The media's influence on this topic cannot be overstated. Nearly every news outlet is quick to praise weight loss and mock weight gain. Tabloids will happily chastise a celebrity for gaining weight after pregnancy, then congratulate them when they finally lose the baby weight. Ironically, glorifying fatness has very little to do with the actions of fat people. It is more closely related to the attitudes of those who have never been fat and their anxiety surrounding the topic. The only way to combat this stigma is for these people to put in the work and analyze their own internal biases to discover why accepting fat people makes them so uncomfortable. Skinny shaming is individual, while fat shaming represents a broader cultural bias. Shaming anyone for how they look is wrong, no matter which way, shape, or form it's presented. Our bodies are our own. They are not something to be judged by other people. The simple fact should be obvious, but body shaming is a very real and unfortunate part of modern life. Under the banner of body shaming, there are two categories that often get the most attention: skinny shaming and fat shaming. Neither is fair or appropriate, but one is significantly more harmful than the other. Viewing these two practices on an individual level, they seem pretty similar. At its core, any kind of body shaming boils down to making someone feel less than, based solely on their appearance. However, when we look beyond the damage done to the individual, things start to get more complicated. The main problem lies in the fact that skinny shaming is an act of individualized aggression, while fat shaming is a systemic issue. Being criticized for looking too thin is obviously harmful to one's well-being, but it's not the same as not being able to meet your most basic needs. Fat shaming is part of a complicated web of institutional, cultural, and personal biases meant to keep fat people trapped on the edge of society. Body shaming has never been a way to create positive, meaningful change. Telling someone they need to eat more is not going to make them gain weight, just as telling someone they're fat is not going to make them lose weight. The only byproducts of this practice are pain, shame, and feelings of isolation. People of all sizes can benefit from fighting against body shaming and supporting fat activism. Thin people can help by confronting their own preconceived notions about fatness and speaking out against body shaming when they see it. Fat people can support this process by continuing to tell their stories and share their unique experiences. In this blink to "you just need to lose weight," you've learned that myths about weight are deeply ingrained in nearly every part of our society. These harmful ideas stem from a long history of anti-fat bias and are used to isolate anyone who doesn't fit the perceived social norms for appearance. Every day, fat people are forced to defend their own bodies, trying to make their way in a world that was never designed to include them. From the idea that they should easily be able to lose weight, to the concept of the obesity epidemic, our conversations about weight are deeply flawed. By learning about these myths and the real truths behind them, you've taken a crucial step in the fight against anti-fat discrimination. By re-examining our own internal biases and actively supporting the work of fat activists, we can help make the world a more inclusive place for people of all shapes and sizes. Thanks so much for listening. Please leave us a rating or comment. We always appreciate your feedback. See you in the next Blink.